Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Morning Market Movers on Monday, March 7th. This is where we do live analysis for day trading. We take a look at hot spots in the markets for today. I am Todd Rich. I'm with Nadex. With me, Brian Caprice from Keep Trading Simple. And straight up, there's some volatility going on in the markets today. We saw the markets open with oil gapping way higher. And if you hadn't seen the news, oil actually touched 130. $130 a barrel before pulling all the way back. I think it's down around 117 right now, but massive volatility in oil. We're seeing it in other commodities as well. We're seeing gold jumped up above $2,000 an ounce. It is also pulled back. Silver to I think it got up close to $26.50 an ounce before, but gold and silver are actually now lower on the day, having retraced the gap and gone down, just back to around roughly where we opened on Friday. But we're seeing some big volatility in the commodities, and then we're seeing some movement in the equities as well as the war in Ukraine continues on. Russia's putting out some statements on, yeah, we'll stop the war if you give up these two states as independent, you forego any claim to Crimea because we annexed it, and you change your name to Russia. Like, okay. Yeah, I don't think so. Anyhow, that's continuing on, keeping the situation fluid. Before we get into these charts and we just kind of look through, because there is a lot of volatility, and there's probably going to be some. In fact, there are going to be some interesting levels to take a look at. I do need to share this disclaimer that trading involves risk, may not be appropriate for everyone, that any trading decisions you make are solely your responsibility and at your own risk. And this is an educational session. Please do not construe anything Brian or I say as a buy or sell recommendation. We are doing this for your education purposes. Here's just a quick peek at some of the volatility we're seeing. This is just gold, where yes, it gapped higher, it took off, and then just about an hour and a half ago, straight down. And we're going to see that with all the commodities. And that part of that could be because Russia did commit to a ceasefire and they're going to have talks. So I don't know. We'll see where that leads us. Here, Brian, I'm going to go ahead and flip it over to you. And yeah, let's just run through those commodities and take a peek probably over at some equities before the market opens.
Yeah, we mentioned last week on Friday that there was going to be a big weekend for gaps again. It was 2 weeks in a row, and there was gaps pretty much across the board. Currencies not so much, but more the commodities, because again, it's sanctions and it's more or less headlines. Really, the only currency that's moving outside of a normal range right now would be the dollar Swiss, and again, it's Swiss weakness. There's some headlines there about the Swiss economy and what inflation is looking like over there, as well as its close proximity. Besides that, the currency front is rather flat. The biggest mover besides the Swiss is the dollar yen at 36. I mean, even the pound yen, only 15 pips in 24 hours, really, since the open. Dollar CAD, as much as oil bursted, dollar CAD is down 4 pips total. So, again, a lot of those things were kind of last minute kind of market adjustments. And then again, as I mentioned, most of them are retracing back right now. Today, there is no, I don't even think if I go to, is there any maybe extremely low ones?
Nothing. I don't think
No.
there's anything.
Bank lending across overseas. There's no U.S. There's nothing. So you can see there's just very, very shy Monday. So there's just not much out there. So it'll just be dominated by political headlines. The only political headline I think that really kind of stands mentioning again is commodity based. Basically, that Germany has no plans to halt Russian energy imports. The White House made a statement last night, I think. Basically, they're considering blocking. The U.S. weighs actions without allies on board to ban Russian imports. The reality is there's only 90,000 barrels, that we're importing. Canada is 4 million. So the 90 is really nothing. It's kind of like, yeah, we get off from you guys. It's not really like a big deal, but the market is like, oh, they're going to ban it? It's 90,000, guys. It's absolutely nothing. So it's so small. Yeah, yeah. So the perception is like this is a big step. The reality is it's like literally nothing. It's a drop in the hat. It wouldn't really affect much at all. And again, could we tell one of the other allies out there, hey, listen, we need 90,000 more barrels, even though we have tons of it here? Could they get us 90,000? Yeah. So it's not going to be like that's it. Gas stations we're going to start sanctioning gas. It's not
Or
that
we
kind of
could
deal.
start fracking and pick
But we're
that up
already going
in
to
a
start
second.
doing that. They're already ramping that back up again because we're well
Yeah.
above that figure. And actually, where we are right now with oil, really above, I've heard different figures, but anywhere between 110, 115, it negatively affects GDP. The last time we saw oil prices this high, oh, by the way, nationwide, we are now paying over $4 a gallon. That's the
Yeah.
average. The last time that this happened was in 2008. And when it broke $4 a gallon was the national that's the national average.
Average. Yeah, that's
California, there's places at $6, almost $6, and things like that.
higher.
Once it goes over 4, it starts to hurt. Shipping becomes a major, major, major problem. So we talked about inflation before. We get a CPI data point later on this week. I think it's Thursday. Yeah, Thursday. And look at this month over month CPI. Guess what? It's not only positive, it's higher than it was before. And that was before we've taken all these crazy jumps in oil the way that it is now. Oil's what, $20 higher than it was a month ago?
Yeah.
So remember when they said, oh, Ukraine only 0.25? Yeah. Well, right now the projection is based off of the price of oil and the way that the inversion, the equity curve is going. We should be in a recession within the next 6 to 12 months. So that's definitely something to keep an eye on. Those were statements that came out last night based off of where we are on some of the, again, bond curves, yield curves, things like that. Much more complicated than we talk about here. But now that all the experts are like, where we are right now, it says because of X, we will be in a recession in 6 to 12 months. That 6 months also coincides with an election, guys. So it's getting really, really interesting. So we'll see if Powell still says, hey, no, 0.25. That's all we can do. Anyway, VIX obviously jumped over the weekend. It always does. What's Russia going to do next? It is coming down in the overnight since the European session really kind of kicked in. So it is lowering. I'm actually curious today. And again, the responses thus far, although everything is red from based off of where we were from the close, equity-wise, everything is up. Europeans really stepped in, and this is actually interesting enough. 42, 43, 50 was a level that we talked about last week. We had a base and a test. You bring that across, that's exactly what we tagged the European session. The European open session was literally hitting that zone right there, and we've been nothing but straight up right now. We are about to fill the gap from Friday. It got close. It's right there. Really, with lack of any economic news, and really none of the headlines are really anything too major. There's obviously, at least in the ES, there's a bunch of sellers in here where you can see spikes up again. And that Harry Potter we talked about last week also went to complete fruition. So, lack of any real major headlines, there's really no reason why it
doesn't
shouldn't
drift higher.
necessarily.
Where
Yeah, it
where
doesn't
do those
drift.
sellers come in? I just can't see.
There's a couple. I mean, there's a couple in here. I mean, like the gap is going to be sellers at 43. 22.
Yeah.
You're going to see sellers right above it at 37. You're going to see them at 45. There's every one of these peaks is another group, and then again we had that Harry Potter trade where we had sellers at 43.64. So and then another level above that. So there's a bunch of small levels there. NQ also a similar scenario, had that kind of Harry Potter the gap, and again parabolic move. Again, go watch the parabolic retracement webinar. Parabolic move down. There's your basing. There's your Harry Potter confirmation test, and boom, off to the races. Well beyond 1 to 3 already this morning. Again, Europeans did nothing but send it straight up. Europeans stepped into the market right here. Again, this is like pretty much textbook parabolic retracement. Huge, could be a gap. Huge red candle, some basing, failure to go higher, and then again, even if you didn't take it there, you were scared. Right here at 6:30 in the morning, it continued to rise. So I mean, it's down 0.32, but it is rallying right now. It's still got the same sellers to go through, but I think at least for NQ, 14,000 would be a big one. I don't know if we can get all the way up there. That would be another 200 points to go. But I think that's kind of on the radar with lack of any real big news. I mean, I don't know. Like I said, Russia's now saying, hey, listen, we'll stop immediately with XYZ. They're not going to get XYZ. But remember, negotiation, you always go farther than you actually are accepting, would be willing to accept and pull back. So I wouldn't be surprised if we do start to see some type of a headline or some type of halt. I don't think the invasion timeline is going as fast as they had wanted.
No.
Are they still on track to take everything over? Yes. Is it a lot harder than they assumed? Yes. And again, now we're talking about sending planes over there. I guess we're donating planes, I guess is what it is.
Poland's going to give them planes because they know how to fly them.
Yeah.
And then we'll backfill Poland with American.
Yeah, and then we'll give them. Yeah. So we're not actually sending planes in, although the headlines make you believe that, NATO can send planes into the airspace. Yeah, but we're
Poland.
giving them to the Ukraine first, and then they are Ukrainian planes. It is not actually NATO going in and attacking. So
Correct.
I think that's where Putin would be like, oh, that it's on now. I'm sure I'll have an issue with the planes anyway. But, we'll see how that folds out. We'll see where it goes. There were statements on Friday that Russia said, that Putin said that, listen, the sanctions are not necessarily all bad. Again, having the ruble be cheap, it does put them in kind of a yen scenario. So I don't know if there's some type of, they're trying to make, lemonade out of lemons, who knows? But again, look at any news should be continued up. Dow, also the same thing. This one missed by just a little bit. It's like, just so close. But it did the same thing. We had here was the gap, here was the base. This one actually drove lower and then gave us the confirmation on this side. It didn't go lower and is also rallying. It's also about to fill the same gap from where we closed on Friday. So again, another number. The Dow is technically the weakest right now. And again, the Dow is going to have the hardest problem with where oil is. I'll touch on that in one sec. Remember, Dow Jones Industrial Average, a lot of the shipping sector and anything industry based tends to get focused in the Dow. NQ doesn't care about gas prices because it's electronic. YM, absolutely. Transportation is one of the big pieces of that. And if you don't believe me, go look at what food costs right now. My wife messaged me on Friday. She's like, wow, I don't remember what it was she was looking at. She's like, we normally pay $9 for this. It's $18 now. The price literally doubled for a couple of the items, and she's good with that stuff. I was like, doubled? Are you sure? She's like,
That's
yeah,
crazy.
It's normally $9.70, whatever. She's got it worked out, and she's like,
was it your Russian caviar?
No. It was
you eat in the Caprice house.
I think it was actually some I have, having the two, 11-year-old boys I think it was actually protein bars or something like that. Went from $9 and
God. They're gonna
crazy.
Get you out of your house. I know how that works.
Yeah, I don't know how that's going to work when they're teenagers. One of them already eats as much as me. And Russell, again, Russell is always going to be the one that maneuvers the fastest as we get up and down. You can see that Russell ended up gapping past, and this was not an entry. You can see it's a black number. It was a target for us down here at 1974. It did the same thing. It rallied down, came back, and then again gave us that confirmation pattern where it failed to go any lower. It turned out that this is kind of what the zone looked like. But as of right now, you can see that, even had you taken this one from the European session, which is this base right here, right? You can see that we're well beyond at this point. 1 to 3 is right there. So we're well beyond 1 to 3. And it's actually, right now, it's actually officially over where we closed on Friday. So as you can see, it's only down 0.11. Again, it's kind of a weird candle. It's the bottom of it, and it's not, it's right there. So this, the Russell's about to go positive. It's about to go green. So, and again, the reason why is because there's no major headlines. Nuclear weapon hasn't been dropped yet. As I said, the Germany thing is a big deal. The fact that they are not going to halt Russian imports. They said that it's a great thing to talk about. We'd love to do it, but we're not able to do it right. We can't secure the energy we need unless we use Russia.
Yep.
Putin is over there, toasting everybody with, bottles of vodka at this point. Told you. Again, this is the reality of the situation. So again, will it lead to further infrastructure changes in the future? Yeah, but right now there's nothing they can do about it. They cannot cut off Russia's main cash cow.
So with that, let's take a quick peek at the oil charts though before we call it a day here.
So here is the cash cow. Right? So remember when this all started, when it's like, oh, Russia's bad, we're talking about, let's see, January timeframe, it was $86. It is now, even though it dropped, it is now 118. And Germany just said, hey, you know what? We can't cut them off. We need them. So this is what is funding kind of the craziness right now. So we did take a huge gap, and we expected it. We knew that there would be. Again, anytime, the United States says we're going to cut off Russian oil, everybody should do it. Like I said, it's not a big thing for us. It's whether other people do it. At the same time, if everybody else does that, that means Russian oil prices go down. If China could get it at 50% off and get it for 66, they're going to buy every single drop of oil that they have. And China has created energy contracts with them. So
yeah,
is that it? If everybody puts sanctions, is Russia going to fold instantaneously? No. China will only get stronger because they'll get discounted oil. But here's your gap. Here's your retracement. I wouldn't be surprised if we come back down to the 115, kind of where we closed at the end of the week. We should, again, typically in the U.S. market, we do get a bit of a burst. I know my Texas students, they love it when oil goes up. Those guys, their blood is black. But where prices are right now, this is actually hurting our GDP. And again, transportation, food costs, everything across the board is, we're kind of in that $100 oil is cool. 118. not as
130.
much. So
Holy cow! Yeah, right.
yeah, and I don't have 130. I have 127.50. I don't even have 128 broken in the US,
Oh no,
US
yeah,
World Futures. But
yeah, it just it poked, it got right there, and I'm not sure here. Hold on. It's so
yeah,
funny where your data feed comes from. Um, I've got it here at I got the high as 129,975.
yeah. But again, same
Wow.
thing. Shot up in the world, nukes were not launched. That's a parabolic move. Again, a gap, the way that you can handle a gap is basically drawing it the same thing as a big, gigantic red candle. Parabolic move up, retracing back down again after we had, a failure to go higher. Right there. There was your failure. And you can see if you guys were in a short position. It really kind of triggered starting with the overnight. Right now, whoops, I didn't want to move the whole thing. I wanted to just move this. Right now, it's at a 1 to 6.6. Your 1 to 3 is right there. That's actually 1 to 3.5. So trade's done. Parabolic move up, retracing back. Nothing really major happened. Natural gas is also kind of something similar. Now, natural gas, I think, is going to be a pretty interesting trade. It did get higher, and it didn't continue to move, and it had one more rally higher. A lot of this came from the German response to, hey, listen, we can't cut them off. We need them. And that was like, yeah. But now it's kind of like, okay, but it didn't really change too much, and that's why we're seeing a pullback. Right around where that we closed on Friday was right here. That just happens to also be nestled right around that 50% retracement level for FibWise. So I'm curious to see if that's going to be kind of an interesting bottom today. And I do expect oil and natural gas both do make a little bit of a run up. Again, when U.S. traders step online, we tend to see that burst. So
Some
keep that
support.
on your radar today. Gold is also important to mention. Again, we came up and broke 2,000 and immediately collapsed back down. And actually, just a little while ago, it was actually lower than what the gap was. Again,
Oh, yep.
Gold bouncing around is interesting. I think it's a kind of a fool's trick at this point. It's nice that you can say that, oh, it's above that. Yeah, Russia has gold, sure, but there's no shortage of gold. People still use gold, and again, we know that CPI is later this week. With everybody raising interest rates, inflation is under the gun. So, rising interest rates doesn't necessarily bode well for gold. So, I think it's a flight to safety, but at the same time, everybody that's trying to be safe by buying gold right here is also kind of setting up for quite a large short when the interest rates go.
When interest rates start going higher and it just
Yeah,
starts costing more and more to store that gold.
yeah,
I mean,
and silver,
yeah.
silver's already red. So gold is starting to chime back, chip back down again. Silver is lower than where we closed on Friday. We mentioned we had that 26.05 to 26.16. Here was your Friday gap up right into that level, and typically, the technicals always win. The fundamentals the fundamentals don't necessarily matter as much. It should be doing the same thing gold is. And what did it do? It ran into a level of sellers we had from way back. It even tested it here. So even if you hadn't had that old level, you didn't know how to draw it, or you didn't launch the program, there was your top, there was your pullback, there's your established level of risk, and we're pushing back down, and we're coming back close to the 25 level again. So, commodities took a big spike. We knew that there was going to be a lot of gaps. And again, here's a gap retracement. This one had a little bit more of a peak, but a gap retracement. Natural gas had a gap and a retracement back down again. Oil, same thing, retracement back down again. So same pattern all over the place. I would say look to see where that first trader kind of kicks in at. The risk assets are back on right now. Bitcoin and Ethereum. Ethereum's up 2.5. Bitcoin is at 1.3. Even Doji's up at 12 cents again, up 0.8. So, and then bonds you can see are pulling back down again. So today looks like it's a risk on day. Risk on tends to be good for the overall indices, and as I mentioned, VIX is creeping down very, very fast. And again, Russell's pulling back just a little bit. It's 0.2, but everything is more or less kind of back to where we closed on Friday at minus 0.3.
Yeah.
So less than a percentage. And again, you can see Russell is still trying to pick it up and still trying to punch through. So again, no news, no major headlines right now. Again, Germany saying that we're not going to do this.
It's
we'll
good.
see what it looks like. So
we'll see.
play the
I mean, it's a
pullback.
very
Play the
fluid
pullback.
situation. It's
Yep,
very fluid.
play the pullback.
So, all right, with that, any questions for Nadex, please email us, customerservice@nadex.com. Oh, you know what? I could change my email. I got to fix this. My email address is now todd.rich@nadex.com, as it should be. So I will get that fixed before tomorrow. If you got any questions for Brian, please feel free to reach out to him. Brian and I are very accessible. You can catch Brian at support@keeptradingsimple.com. And there's some volatility. And as Brian mentioned, it's risk back on. We talked about it on Friday. It was very much a risk off situation because no one knew it was going to happen over the weekend. And now that money's sitting on the sidelines. here we are Monday. People want to start getting back into the game. You're seeing risk come back on, and expect to see continued volatility in the markets. Commodities moving all over the place. Equities also impacted by what's going on in Ukraine. With that, Brian and I will be back tomorrow morning. If you like what we're doing, wherever you're watching us, please drop us a like. We do appreciate that. Brian and I will catch you again tomorrow. Thank you so much for joining. Good luck in the